Next up, we have the VeggieTales episode, Minnesota Cuke and the Search for Samson's Hairbrush. The second Minnesota Cuke in the series. And the first Easter egg is in the opening countertop scene. Larry makes a reference to the fast food place in the silly song His Cheeseburger from Madame Blueberry.
Before the show, I stopped for lunch at Burger Bell.
Later, in the Moose Lake Children's Museum, Mr. Muffet is using Samson's hairbrush from Minnesota Cuke and the Search for Samson's Hairbrush.
Eccentric is moving with money.
Later, in Mexico, there's a reference to the silly song from Rack, Shack, and Benny. There are 3 Easter eggs in this one shot, so hold on to your hats. There are 2 Easter eggs for the original Minnesota Cuke. The treehouse from Bully Trouble in that show, and the gummy worms. And if you've seen that episode, you know what I'm talking about. Also, Minnesota Cuke has a Larry Boy lunchbox. There's a reference to Where's God When I'm So Scared in Rattan's movie studio. Tales from the Crisper was the first segment from that show. There's another Easter egg outside the movie theater. You can see the movie that's playing is VeggieTales St. Nicolas, which would be their next episode after this one. Next up, we have the VeggieTales Christmas special that I totally recommend watching. St. Nicholas, a story of joyful giving. And to get to the first Easter egg, you have to click your up arrow.
Hi everyone, Chris Wall here. You have found one of the Easter eggs. Congratulations. This is an extended clip of Bob on Main Street as he's wrapping up the story of St. Nicholas, and it actually goes into much more of the historical data that Phil Vischer actually brought to the table, did a lot of good research on for us, and has the history of St. Nicholas as it relates to Santa Claus. And it's great stuff, but at this point in the story, we were really looking to kind of wrap things up, and this scene just got a little long, and so we cut it. Well, here it is in its full length, and we hope you enjoy it.
And that, kids, is the story of St. Nicholas.
Wow!
I had no idea.
Not many people do.
So, why do we call him Santa Claus if he's really St. Nicholas?
That's an interesting story, Larry. The Dutch brought stories of St. Nicholas and the celebration of St. Nicholas Day to America in the 1600s, who, in Dutch, was called Sinterklaas.
Sinterklaas?
Yes, Sinterklaas. Washington Irving wrote it down in a story, but he changed it to Santa Claus.
Oh, Santa Claus!
I get it. So do people still celebrate St. Nicholas Day?
In parts of Europe, they still do. In other parts of the world, the stockings and gift-giving of St. Nicholas Day were blended together with another day later in December when churches celebrated the birth of Jesus, a holy day or holiday called the Christ Mass.
The Christ Mass?
Christmas!
Christmas! Oh!
The only other Easter egg in the DVD menus is in bonus features. To get to it, you have to click your down arrow a couple times until you get to sing along, then click your left arrow once, and there you are.
Hi everyone, Chris Wall here. Congratulations, you found one of the Easter eggs. This is a clip of Pastor George, voiced by Phil Vischer, and we put him in the booth and said, hey Phil, we just need some ad-lib of Pastor George preaching so that we can run that behind the scene. And so in the final, it's all kind of cut up and you don't get to hear much of it, and we thought it was just too funny to let it go like that. So here is the full clip of Pastor George preaching in his church in that final scene, and we hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Mrs. Hubert, for that lovely rendition of Wild by My Sheep. We have one more song. You may have noticed that we're not using candles this year due to the unfortunate incident last year. Mr. Johnson, how are the scars? Anyway, thank you, Mrs. Johnson, for the lovely bouquets. Grown in your own backyard garden, is that right? Well, you've really outdone yourself this year. Now let me see, we're gonna get together for the winter picnic next week. Bring your parkas, and we'll be playing snow volleyball. So if you'll all please get your hymnals, on this sacred night we're going to sing a few songs that we always sing because it's Christmas and that's what we do. Ever since I was a little boy in Toledo, Ohio, at the Baptist church down on 4th Street, we'd sing these few songs. Of course, we sang them in Latin because English hadn't been invented yet. So we'll pull out the hymnals, we'll sing the newer versions, because that makes more sense to today's modern kids. And Mary held all these things in her heart. What do you hold in your hearts today? This Christmas Eve, is it something you hope to get in the morning? Perhaps a video game console with a guitar feature? In Chapter 4, as I continue reading, we see that all these things were sacred unto those that beheld them, and betwixt the sheeps were an appearance of angels that heralded the tidings of gladness. And Eddie, where'd everybody go? Oh, nothing but carrots.
Now we'll move on to the Easter eggs in the actual show. And the first one is in the first scene of Grease. You can see it in the girls' little shop. In this bin, they have the aardvark and chameleon crafts from the funny countertop scenes in the VeggieTales episode, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Later in the scene, Paul Grape is wearing the same outfit he did when he was in the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything. Later, in the Three Sisters' house, you can see the same mirror from Billboy Baggy Pants' house in The Lord of the Beans. After the big chase scene, Bob says my favorite Easter egg from this episode, from the VeggieTales episode, The Toy That Saved Christmas.
You roll your dice, you move your mice. Nobody gets hurt.